I've always been a bit of an introvert. Growing up in a small town, the sort of place where everyone knows everyone else's business, it's tough to find your own space. My parents divorced when I was 10, and things haven't been easy for our family since. My dad moved out, my mom worked long hours, and I spent most of my teenage years looking after my younger sister. We got through it, but let's just say I didn't have the time or inclination for an adventurous social life. Fast forward a few years, I found myself living alone in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in the city, working a job that barely pays the bills. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It's just the life I'm accustomed to. My small joys come from quiet nights, Netflix, and of course Reddit. Reddit. That endless sea of subreddits, each one a community unto itself, filled with people who, like me, found a haven in anonymity. Tonight seemed like any other night. My table lamp cast a warm glow over my cramped desk, surrounded by a collection of unpaid bills and a half-eaten slice of pizza from 2 nights ago. I was wrapped in a fleece blanket, the window air conditioner making the room cooler than I'd like, but hey, it was all I could afford. Reddit was calling my name. I opened the app and my fingers began their well-practiced dance over the screen, flicking through posts and scrolling down comment sections. There's something incredibly comforting about this routine, the feeling that, for a few hours, I could engage with people and ideas without the burden of my day-to-day troubles. Then I stumbled upon it, a subreddit called Missing Upvotes. The thing was a peculiar enigma. Every post on it had an eerie abundance of comments, but a complete absence of upvotes. More strangely, the sidebar indicated that there were 0 members and 0 people online. That's not just odd, that's impossible, I thought. My thumb hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to navigate away to continue with my Reddit ritual unaltered, but the other part, perhaps the part starved for some sort of excitement, wouldn't let me. So I did what anyone in my position would probably regret later. I disrupted this odd corner of the internet. I decided to post a simple meme, a dog wearing oversized glasses, the caption reading, "Is this how you adult?" I chuckled to myself and pressed post, wholly unprepared for the extent to which my life was about to change. The meme appeared on the subreddit, blending into the uncanny sea of content that, for some reason, nobody had upvoted. I locked my phone and leaned back, taking a sip of my now lukewarm cocoa, completely oblivious to the gravity of what I had just done. And that's when the first notification popped up. I almost choked on my cocoa when the Reddit notification sound pierced the stillness of my room. It wasn't the sound itself that startled me. It was the accompanying message. "You have been upvoted on our Missing Upvotes." "Wait, what?" I muttered, wiping a cocoa-smeared lip. "That subreddit doesn't do upvotes." My thoughts raced. Maybe it was just a glitch, or perhaps some rogue Redditor trying to shake things up. Either way, it felt strange, like I'd stepped on some unwritten Reddit rule that I didn't even know existed. I unlocked my phone and clicked on the notification, which led me right back to my meme post. Sure enough, there was a single upvote, mine, and another one, not mine. My eyes widened. I scrolled down to the comments, expecting some sort of explanation. Maybe a moderator warning me about the uniqueness of this subreddit, or a longtime member cracking a joke about the newfound attention my post was getting. Instead, the comment section was empty, as barren as a desert, not a single reply or explanation in sight. Just as I was about to exit, another notification. "You have been upvoted on our Missing Upvotes." I felt a chill creep up my spine. The meme now had 3 upvotes, and this time the upvotes seemed to be multiplying in real time before my eyes. 4, then 5, then 6 upvotes. The room felt colder, even though the air conditioner was now turned off. Something was very wrong. I tried to shake off the eerie feeling by diverting my attention. I pulled up another subreddit, this one about funny cat videos, trying to immerse myself in the mundane and the comedic. Anything to get my mind off what was happening. But I couldn't escape it. Notification after notification rolled in, each announcing yet another upvote on my cursed meme. Within minutes, it had crossed 100 upvotes, and the counter showed no signs of stopping. I started to sweat, my heartbeat quickening with each new notification. I gripped my phone tightly, contemplating my next move. I could delete the post, but what would that mean? Would that even stop whatever this was? The fear was building, a tidal wave on the horizon, growing larger and darker with every passing second. I decided it was time to get answers. And so, with trembling fingers, I typed out a comment on my own post. "Who are you all? What's going on here?" As if in response, the upvote counter froze. 163 upvotes. The room seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for something terrible to happen. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Only this time, it wasn't a Reddit notification. It was a text message from an unknown number. "Why did you disrupt our silence?" The room seemed to close in on me as I read the text message. "Why did you disrupt our silence?" The words hung heavy in the air, resonating with an eeriness that I couldn't shake off. Who was our? What silence were they referring to? A chill crawled up my spine, colder and more alarming than before. For a moment, I considered throwing my phone across the room, but curiosity got the better of me. My eyes darted to my laptop, still open, still displaying Reddit. The upvote counter on my meme had stopped increasing, but remained at an unsettling 163. I refreshed the page, the upvotes were gone. My post now sat at a single upvote, mine. Confused and terrified, I turned my attention back to the text. The unknown number stared back at me, like a taunting specter daring me to delve deeper. Against better judgment, I replied, "Who is this?" The room held its breath again. I waited, expecting another eerie message. But my phone remained silent. Just as I began to think that it was all some sick joke, a new notification chimed. This time it was a Reddit direct message from a user named silentobserver_163. The message read, "You should have left things as they were. Ignorance is bliss." My mind raced, trying to make connections. 163, the same number of upvotes my meme had accumulated before they disappeared. I responded, "What do you want from me? What was that subreddit really for?" The typing indicator popped up almost immediately, then disappeared. The suspense was unbearable. Then finally the message came. "The subreddit is a place for us to observe in silence. You disrupted the equilibrium. You have to make amends." My hands were trembling. Make amends how? Another pause, another unbearable wait. Then, post again. But this time, no memes, no jokes. Ask for forgiveness. My skin crawled with apprehension, but I knew I had to see this through. Still shaking, I logged back into Reddit. My cursor hovered over the Create Post button on our Missing Upvotes. What was I getting myself into? I felt like I was being watched, like a specimen under a microscope as I clicked on the Create Post button. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Finally typing, "I'm sorry for disrupting the silence. I seek forgiveness." My mouse hovered over the post button. Every fiber of my being screamed not to do it, but it was as if an unseen force compelled me. I clicked post. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A new text from the unknown number. "You've taken the first step." A sigh of relief escaped my lips. Maybe this nightmare was finally coming to an end. Refreshing the Reddit page, I saw my post had received one upvote, then two. Slowly it climbed to 163, but this time it didn't stop there. It kept going, 200, 300, 400 upvotes. Comments flooded in. "Forgiven. All is well. The silence is restored." But just as I started to feel the tension ease, another message from silentobserver_163 appeared in my Reddit inbox. "You've made amends on the surface, but have you truly understood the depth of your transgression?" My heart sank. What did they want now? As if reading my thoughts, a new message from the mysterious number popped up on my phone. "To truly make amends, you must become an observer. Silence your socials. Observe, but never interact." The request was chilling. Social media was my life. Disconnecting meant losing my sense of self, my social circle, my source of news, memes, and so much more. But the terror of the situation, the sheer inexplicableness of it all urged me to comply. For a week I observed in silence, just as the mysterious message commanded. No posts, no upvotes, no comments. I was a digital ghost, unseen yet constantly watching. Finally, a message from silentobserver_163 appeared. "You've done well. The silence is pleased. You are now free." Almost instantaneously, my phone buzzed with a text message. "You've paid your dues. The silence is restored." For the first time in days, I breathed a sigh of relief. The ordeal was over. Or so I thought. As I opened Reddit to delete my account, something caught my eye. A new subreddit recommendation. "Are the silence is pleased." I clicked on it out of curiosity, my heart pounding in my chest. It was a community with 163 members. The first post was mine, cross-posted. It had 163 comments, each one a variation of welcome. Now, whenever I'm scrolling through Reddit and come across a post with 163 upvotes, a chill runs down my spine. I've learned to embrace the silence, to understand its power, its mystery. I even catch myself occasionally visiting Are the Silences Pleased, watching as the community silently observes the digital world around them. I often wonder about the 163 silent observers, who they are, and why they chose to live in the digital shadows. But one thing I've come to understand: some things are better left unspoken, unexplored, unupvoted. The silence is indeed a powerful thing, and I've learned to respect it. If you're ever scrolling through Reddit and come across a mysterious subreddit, remember my story. Sometimes the best choice is to observe in silence and move on, for you never know what happens when you disrupt the silence. As the city slept, my eyes were locked onto my laptop screen, navigating through the labyrinth of Reddit forums. My day job as an IT analyst was demanding but monotonous. That's why Reddit became my after-hours escape. After a tedious video call with my estranged father, who after 20 years of absence still couldn't remember my birthday, I was eager to lose myself in the cyber world. That night I found myself on LastMessages, a morbid yet fascinating subreddit where people shared the last texts or messages they received from loved ones or acquaintances before they passed away or vanished. Some messages were regretful, some cryptic, some tragically mundane. Each post felt like a peek into someone's most private moment of grief or bewilderment, and each message in its own way served as a chilling reminder of the unpredictability of life. As I scrolled, I felt a strange blend of empathy and discomfort. Everyone had a story: a mother who texted "I love you" before never coming home, a friend who left a voice message that sounded subtly off just days before going missing. As haunting as these stories were, they were still stories of other people, distant and disconnected from my reality. That is, until I received a message myself, an email notification that stopped my aimless scrolling dead in its tracks. It was from a username I didn't recognize, but the message preview was enough to turn my insides to ice. "This will be my last message to you." I was about to realize that some stories don't remain stories for long, and the screen that separates reality from the virtual can shatter in the blink of an eye. I hesitated for what felt like a lifetime before clicking on the email. My cursor hovered over it, my heart pounding against my chest. The air in my small apartment felt thicker, almost suffocating. I was aware that this could be some sick prank, but the weight of the message hung heavy over me. Finally, mustering the courage, I clicked on it. The email opened up to reveal a longer message. "Dear Samantha 97, I've watched you from afar, lurking behind the virtual walls of Reddit. I've seen you laugh, cry, and engage in your favorite subreddits. But tonight I write this final message to let you know that this is where our journey ends. This will be my last message to you. You've entertained me for quite some time, but I'm afraid all good things must come to an end. Yours truly, an old friend." My mind went into overdrive. Who could this be? A disgruntled coworker, an envious friend, my father? The signature "an old friend" didn't help. My life had been a revolving door of people coming and going, thanks to my father's constant relocations and my own introverted nature. It could be anyone. Panic began to set in. I quickly turned on all the lights in my apartment, the silence now filled with the hum of electricity. I grabbed my phone and began to text a few close friends asking if they had pranked me. The 3 gray dots appeared and disappeared as they typed, their messages all variations of the same thing. "No man, it wasn't me. Are you okay?" I considered contacting the police but realized the futility of it. I had no tangible threat, no evidence, and so I returned to my laptop, staring at the open email, now a glaring testament to my vulnerability. It was then that I decided to dig deeper into the enigma that was our LastMessages. Maybe there was a pattern, a clue, something that would connect the dots. Because if this was someone's last message to me, I had to find out what that really meant. And so, I continued scrolling, each click leading me further into a maze that I feared had no exit. As the night grew darker, I found myself engrossed in a thread, a series of LastMessages that hinted at something darker. An underground network, cryptic mentions of the next step, and a collection of posts from users who had long since gone inactive. My phone buzzed. A text message. No name, just a number. "This is your last message." My heart sank. Whoever this was, they'd escalated from the virtual world into my very real, very isolated existence. As the walls of my apartment seemed to close in on me, I realized that some last messages aren't just endings. They are grim invitations to a beginning. The curtain of night lifted slowly, and as the first rays of dawn sneaked into my room, I had to make a choice. Do I dig deeper, pull at this thread that seems to go on endlessly, or do I shut it all down, hoping it's a twisted joke with no punchline? One thing was clear: I was entangled in something sinister, and extricating myself wouldn't be easy. I couldn't just let this go. Someone had managed to turn my life into a macabre game, and I had to figure out who. The first rays of dawn spilled through my window, casting a pale light on my face. A whole night had passed since I delved into our last messages, but sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. Fueled by adrenaline and an unsettling sense of fear, I decided to look into these mysterious messages more systematically. I started by searching for common elements among posts and cross-referencing them with other social media platforms. Hours passed, but I felt like I was treading water, making no headway. And then a small detail caught my eye, a specific phrase that recurred in multiple posts. The next step. Taking a gamble, I used this phrase as a search query on Reddit and hit jackpot. I found a separate private subreddit dedicated to what seemed like coded conversations among its members. All posts mentioned the next step and were punctuated by strings of numbers and letters, possibly some kind of cipher. Before I could make heads or tails of it, my phone buzzed again. A new message from the unknown number. "You're getting closer, but are you sure you want to take the next step?" I was already in too deep. Ignoring the message wouldn't make me any safer. I texted back, "Who are you?" Seconds turned into minutes, and just when I thought I wouldn't get a reply, my phone vibrated. "An old friend, as I told you. Take the next step." Suddenly it clicked. The messages, the private subreddit, the strings of numbers, they were all part of a digital treasure hunt leading where I didn't know. My gut told me to walk away, but curiosity urged me forward. After several more hours, I managed to crack the code. It was a set of geographical coordinates, pointing to a location not far from where I lived. The phrase, "the next step," took on a chilling, literal meaning. I pondered my choices. Going there would mean crossing a line, venturing into the unknown, and possibly putting myself in danger. But not going would mean living in perpetual uncertainty, looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. I made my choice. Grabbing a jacket and ensuring my phone was fully charged, I headed out, my steps echoing the nervous beat of my heart. The coordinates led me to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. As I stood in front of its derelict gates, I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that seemed to grow darker by the second. Just as I was about to turn around, my phone buzzed. "Welcome to the next step." As I read the message, the warehouse lights flickered on, illuminating a path inside. My heart pounded in my chest like a war drum as I stared at the illuminated path before me. A part of me screamed to turn back, to abandon this twisted journey. But another part of me, the part that spent hours decoding messages and piecing together this morbid puzzle, wanted to see it through to the end. Summoning every ounce of courage, I walked through the creaking gates and into the warehouse. The air was heavy with the smell of dust and decay. The lights above seemed to form a runway, guiding me toward a table at the far end of the room. As I got closer, I saw that the table held an old computer, its monitor glowing faintly. Standing before the table, I felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. My phone vibrated again. "You've made it. The last step is yours to take." Taking a deep breath, I sat down and woke up the computer. To my surprise, it immediately directed me to a login page for our last messages. It seemed I had been granted temporary access. The latest post was by an unfamiliar username, and it was addressed to me. The message read, "Congratulations. You've reached the end of your journey, but every end is a new beginning. Press enter to take the final step." My finger hovered over the enter key, hesitating. The room felt colder, as though shadows themselves were leaning in to see what I would do. Finally, I pressed it. The screen went black for a moment, and then a video started playing. It was footage of me from earlier today, yesterday, last week. Someone had been stalking me, documenting my every move. The video ended with the text, "Your life as you know it has ended. Your new life begins now. You have 24 hours. The screen went dark and the warehouse lights shut off, plunging me into an unsettling darkness. My phone lit up one final time. Time starts now. My legs felt weak, but I ran, stumbling through the dark, guided only by the dim light of my phone. As I burst through the warehouse gates into the night, a chilling realization washed over me. I had become a part of something much bigger and darker than myself, and my life would never be the same again. And that's the story of how I found our last messages and why you should be careful when you delve too deeply into the darker corners of the internet. I'm living on borrowed time, constantly looking over my shoulder. My old life is gone, and I'm not sure what my new life holds. But one thing is certain. I'm still taking the next steps, whatever they may be. I've always had a penchant for mysteries, a thirst for the truth that simply couldn't be quenched by your run-of-the-mill detective novels or crime shows. I was an accountant by day, but by night, I was an avid user of our crime solvers, a subreddit dedicated to armchair detectives like me who spent their time dissecting, analyzing, and sometimes even solving real-life crimes. But the thing is, unlike many others who frequented the forum for sheer entertainment, I had an almost academic seriousness about it. My father had been a police officer, killed in the line of duty when I was just 7. I felt like this was my way of honoring him. On a particularly uneventful Thursday evening, I came across a post that instantly made my stomach churn. It wasn't a news article or an unsolved mystery. It was a real-time cry for help. The post read, "I think someone's in my house. What do I do?" Comments were flooding in by the second, most telling the original poster, whose username was "hiding in my closet," to call 911 immediately. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but before I could type out a response, another update appeared. "I can't. My phone is dead and I'm on my laptop. Someone's walking around downstairs. I'm scared." My heart started racing. Was this a prank? Or was someone's life genuinely in danger? I had to make a call, literally. I picked up my phone and dialed 911, offering them the scant details I had. They promised to trace the IP address and send someone if they could confirm the location. Meanwhile, "Hiding in my closet" continued to post updates. I heard a door open. "I think they're coming upstairs. I don't know what to do." By now, the subreddit was in a frenzy, offering a mix of prayers and practical advice. I hit refresh incessantly, each second feeling longer than the last. Finally, another update. "My bedroom door just opened. Oh God, I think this is it." The screen seemed to blur as my eyes widened with horror. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was the police. "We traced the IP address and officers are on their way. But it'll be a few minutes." A few minutes could mean the difference between life and death. Then it struck me. What if I could distract the intruder? I quickly switched back to Reddit and typed, "If you can, make a loud noise away from your hiding spot. Maybe it will draw them away." Seconds later, the response, "Okay, I'll try." I held my breath and hit refresh. After what seemed like an eternity, a new update popped up. It worked. They left the room. I can hear police sirens now. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Another message appeared, this time from a different user. "You think you're so clever playing the hero? You just made it personal. See you soon, detective." I stared at the message, a chill creeping down my spine. The username read, "The Watcher is watching." I realized then that my passion for solving crimes had drawn the attention of someone sinister, someone who saw me as a challenge. My life had abruptly shifted, and the lines between the digital world and the real one were now terrifyingly blurred. It took a moment for the gravity of the situation to sink in. That message, "See you soon, detective," played over and over in my mind, each repetition amplifying my anxiety. Was this person just a troll trying to get a rise out of me, or was there something more malevolent at play? I was torn between abandoning my Reddit detective persona altogether and digging deeper to find out who was behind this ominous message. I decided on the latter. I had dedicated years to solving mysteries from behind the safety of my computer screen, but this was the first time I had become part of the narrative. It was terrifying, yet oddly invigorating. Besides, if the Watcher is watching was indeed a threat, backing away might not guarantee my safety. Logging back into our crime solvers, I found that Hiding in My Closet had posted an update, confirming they were safe and thanking the community for their help. The post ended with a specific mention. "A special thank you to the Reddit detective for suggesting the distraction. You saved my life." I felt a momentary sense of accomplishment, soon overshadowed by the lingering threat. Determined to take some control back, I scoured the subreddit for any mentions or hints that could lead me to "The Watcher is watching." I even engaged some hacker friends from other online communities to help trace the IP address associated with the account, but it was well hidden. bouncing off multiple servers from different parts of the world. Just as I began to feel a sense of helplessness, my phone buzzed with a Reddit notification. It was a direct message. "I see you're looking for me. Let's play a game. Tomorrow night, another will be in danger. Will you save them, detective, or will you save yourself?" My skin went cold, my mouth dry. This person wasn't just watching. They were orchestrating events, manipulating lives like some twisted puppeteer. That night, sleep eluded me. My mind raced with possible scenarios, each darker than the last. As dawn broke, I made a decision. If the watcher is watching wanted a game, then a game they would get. I may have been the one hunted, but that didn't mean I couldn't turn the tables. The Reddit detective was on the case, and this time it was personal. My life had been invaded, my privacy breached, and someone out there was playing a deadly game with lives hanging in the balance. But as terrifying as it was, I couldn't shake off a newfound sense of purpose. This was no longer about solving crimes from behind the keyboard. This was about catching a predator, one who had just painted a target on my back. As the day wore on, I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at every unexpected noise. My senses were heightened, on full alert for any sign of danger. Despite the palpable fear, I had a plan forming in my mind. The watcher is watching had given me a clue. Tomorrow night, another will be in danger. I had until then to set a trap, but first I needed to protect myself. I contacted a private security company and installed surveillance cameras around my property. I even got myself a personal panic button that would immediately alert the police if pressed. Next, I focused on the community that was being targeted, our crime solvers. Leveraging my reputation as the Reddit detective, I posted an urgent message warning users to be cautious of any private messages from unknown accounts, particularly those hinting at real-world events. I urged them to report anything suspicious. While my post gained traction, my hacker friends finally had some success. They managed to trace the Watcher is Watching's last login to a public Wi-Fi in my city. It was not much, but it was a start. The day turned into night and my phone buzzed with a Reddit notification. It was from a distressed user. "Help, someone's outside my window, what do I do?" I immediately recognized the pattern. It was happening again. I advised the user to call the police and find a place to hide. And then I waited. Minutes felt like hours. Then another notification. "The police came, but they didn't find anyone. Thank you, Reddit detective, you saved me." While relieved, I also received another message, this time from The Watcher is Watching. "Very good, detective, you chose to save them. How noble. See you soon." Chills ran down my spine. It was only then that I noticed one of my newly installed surveillance cameras had captured movement. I rewound the footage and, to my horror, found a masked figure lurking near my property. It was real, he was real, and he was near. But so was I, and now I had something I didn't have before: evidence. Finger hovering over the panic button, I felt the tide finally turning in my favor. It was time for The Watcher is Watching to become the watched. With a steely resolve, I pressed the panic button. Within minutes, police cars surrounded my property, lights flashing but sirens mercifully quiet. As officers swarmed the area, I showed them the surveillance footage. There he was, a shadowy figure, masked and menacing, lingering just beyond the boundary of my yard. "We'll find him," assured the lead officer, a gruff but concerned man named Detective Martinez. While the police intensified their search, I returned to my hacker friends. With the new evidence, they managed to tighten the noose, isolating the Wi-Fi points The Watcher is Watching had been using. It was a small chain of coffee shops in the city. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I took another calculated risk. A post on our crime solvers warning people about the coffee shop locations and asking them to report anything suspicious. It wasn't long before responses flooded in. Among them, an employee from one of the coffee shops reported a regular who always sat in a far corner, face obscured by a hood, typing away on a laptop. The information was promptly shared with Detective Martinez and a team was dispatched. As I watched the live feed from a police body cam, my heart pounded. Officers approached the suspect, who still hadn't noticed them, engrossed as he was in his laptop. "Police, hands where we can see them." The hooded figure jumped, startled. The laptop clattered to the floor as officers wrestled him into handcuffs. With his face finally revealed, he was just a man. Not a myth, not a shadow. Just a man whose reign of terror had just come to an end. The aftermath was a whirlwind. News broke about the Reddit detective capturing a cyberstalker, and my post warning the community was credited for uniting people to fight back against this threat. More importantly, multiple cases of stalking and harassment were solved with the arrest of the Watcher is Watching, whose real name was Anthony. In the shadows of the night, if our tales from Unsettling Horror Stories gave you a fright, press like and let it be known. Subscribe, so you're never alone in this haunting journey, and share, so others too can be wary. Until our next sinister tale, stay dark, dear listener.